Hello, beautiful souls. Today I want to talk about boundaries. So in my group and a few clients I've been working with have been asking about boundaries. So I felt like it was a good time to share some of the lessons I've learned around boundaries. So I am an extremely open person. For a long time in my life, I've had no boundaries at all. Very open, and just because I do believe that everything is always happening for me in life, and that's how I've lived. But there was a few things that I went through in my relationship and in life that definitely showed me where boundaries would have actually really served me and helped me. And so I want to share my perspective on boundaries because obviously I can only speak from my experience. I do believe that boundaries are important, but not when it gets to the point of, because I have seen people use boundaries in this way, which I believe is not very loving, where they will basically say, everything is fine with me, I'm all in alignment, I'm in my bubble, it's just you. You need to change, you need to stop doing that. If you didn't do that, then I would be fine. And we're all guilty of it. I know that I've done this before, especially in relationships. So I had to really look at that and see where I wasn't taking full responsibility for myself and my own energy, and where I was giving my power away, because that's what we're doing by basically blaming the other person. And you know, if it's not another person, it's people blame their jobs, their family, their parents, the government, you know, literally anything and anyone they will blame, so that they don't have to take responsibility, so that they don't have to look inside themselves and face what they don't want to see. But what I found is the more that I lean into that, the more I do take responsibility, the less boundaries I have to actually make. So, which is beautiful, because a lot of people have resistance to making boundaries because they feel that they won't be loved, or love will be taken away. We live in a society where love is very conditional. You do this for me and I will love you. You do this for me and you'll get this thing. And so it's very hard to break up from. But when you choose to come back to unconditional love, firstly for yourself, I feel that it becomes a lot easier to raise your standards for yourself. And then for me, as soon as I raised my standards for myself, I found that I didn't need to put in boundaries as much. So when I wasn't raising my standards for myself, when my self-worth wasn't as high, when my self-value wasn't as high, my self-love, when all of that was lower, I would do things for people and I would then feel resentful, or I'd feel abused because they would continue to come back for more. And I would always be like, I don't understand what's happening here. I'm giving them what they want, but they still want more. And they're constantly coming back, and it's like it's never enough. And I would blame them as if, oh, you know, that's not very loving and they're not very kind, or whatever it is. When in actual fact, I was setting a boundary of no boundaries with these people. I was setting the standard with these people that they could abuse me, that they could just continue to come back more, and I would give and give and give and give and give. So it actually came back to me, and it always comes back to us. It's always a personal problem. When we're having these situations on the outside, it's always really a personal problem that we need to look at. So I then did have to start to learn to put some boundaries in place. So I've got some notes so I stay on track, because I love to talk. So I want to ask you, firstly, what your relationship with boundaries is, what your experience has been with them so far. Is it serving you? Is it not serving you? Maybe you've had an experience like me where you were really open and you started to see that I need to actually start putting some boundaries in place. I'd love to hear your experience and what's really made you feel like you need to start having some boundaries. So the first part is realizing that boundaries is actually about taking ownership of yourself. It's not about blaming the others and controlling everybody else. It's actually about taking radical responsibility of yourself, okay? And coming back to you and asking yourself some questions like, what am I available for? What am I not available for in all areas of my life? And really breaking it down, relationships, intimate relationships, at work, in your friendships, and in your physical environment, in regards to work, in regards to how you use your phone or your email or all of those things. Actually, you deciding how you want to use all of those things in your life instead of those things like Facebook or your emails or your phone or friends or family, instead of them using you, instead of them telling you how they want it to work. You decide to get clear on how you want it to work, what you are available for, what you do want in these experiences. And what I found is when I got crystal clear about that for myself, the how just happened. It just started to fall in place because I started to focus on what I wanted in these relationships, and then that's what I would receive. Instead of just being open to whatever they could give me, I was very clear about what my standard was and what I was available for, and then I started to receive it. And it was in my relationship with my husband, I've seen a dramatic change, and that change has been uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie. There's definitely messy points, especially if you've been together a long time. We've been together, I actually got clear and accurate about this the other day, because I kept changing the number. I don't know if anyone else does that, where you think it's longer than it is. So we've been married this year 7 years. 7 years this year. But we've been together since school, since I was 14. So like 18 years. So it's a long time. So we have had to, our relationship has constantly evolved because it's been such a long time. So we've had to really look at, we didn't really have boundaries when we were children, when we met teenagers, because you just kind of do what you've been brought up with. But then now we have our own children, we have our own family. We've had to get clear on what both of us are available for within ourselves, within our work, within each other. And it's always changing because life is always evolving. But when you start to get clear on it and you know that you're setting the boundary and you're taking full ownership for it, there's less arguments and resistance because you're really clear about what you're available for. So it's really beautiful. And I've actually found my relationships have become more loving. Like, me and my husband feel more connected on a truer level. We feel a deeper love. We feel like we know each other on a truer level. And we feel very clear and kind. And that's what love is. Unconditional love is very clear. It is very kind. There's no confusion. And that's what boundaries helps you to create. And we do it in a very loving way. And like I said, we focus more on raising our standards with ourselves, and then sharing that with each other, and then both declaring to each other. We actually recently just did it again, where we sent a message to each other and we declared our new standards for ourselves and what we're available for in ourselves, in our life. And that flows on into our relationship. And we always say that I'm just letting you know that this is what I'm now committing to for me. Whether you decide to meet me in this or not is up to you. I just want you to know that this is what I'm available for. And always the other person then wants to meet in that, because it's a beautiful up level. If you're in a relationship we're both very committed to our personal growth in our relationship and in our life. And if you're in a relationship that is committed to growing, then you're always going to be met with love. Yes, it will be messy at times, because that's just the truth of life. Life is messy, but it's loving progress forward when you can set these boundaries together, and it's more about really setting standards than anything, and just getting clear on what you do want. So yeah, we found it really powerful in our relationships. And what we found is if we don't do it, then we just kind of get whatever. Have you ever realize that in your life. If you don't set a goal or you don't decide what you do want, you kind of just get a bit of whatever, and it's not very satisfying. You often get it and you're like, I didn't really know what I did want, but I definitely know I don't want that. That doesn't feel great. So, getting clear on what we don't want does help us know more what we do want. And when we do know what we want, it's really our responsibility to be really clear about that so that we can get more of that. And that's how I build on boundaries, really, from that point. So basically, you will know if you are not setting boundaries in your life, if you're feeling things like resentful, abuse, guilt, shame, you're a perfectionist, you're an overachiever, you're a people pleaser. If you're someone who's saying yes when you actually mean no, so you're out of alignment with your soul and you're not speaking your truth. If you're replying to messages at all hours, if you have that panic and fear and you feel like you have to do it, you should do it, rather than honoring what is your truth. And if you really struggle to switch off and turn off from all the external things, so whether it's email, phone, whatever it is, there's an attachment there, an addiction to it, and that it shows that you have no boundary. And so that's when we feel like technology is using us or people are using us and that kind of thing. And there's no need to beat yourself up about it, but you do need to see it so that you can decide, is this serving me or not? And then you get to make a choice, and then you make decisions and you focus on what you want, and then you start to set boundaries around that. That support what you want so that you can actually receive what you want. Life is set up for us to receive what we want. We just have to ask for it. We just need to be clear about it. But so many of us have been raised as like good girls and good boys, and we're just kind of waiting for it to happen. And that was me too. I can put my hand up. Like, I really wanted to be liked and the good girl and all these things, until I realized it's a very unfulfilling path, because you don't get what you want. You kind of just get what you're given. And that's not what we're here for. We're here for amazing, extraordinary lives, and only we know what we want. So it's up to us to speak that. It's up to us to declare that and ask for it and set a boundary so that we receive it. So it's really important in order for us to get what we actually want out of this life, and to not have regrets. And we don't have to settle. And that's how I really started to look at boundaries. I was like, okay, this is my permission to not settle. If I can set a boundary and be very clear about what I am and am not available for and what I want, and this is what I'm going to focus on, then I can actually receive it, and this is powerful. This can really work for me. So yeah, I really hope that helps to build your relationship with it as well. So now you probably know that you are someone who doesn't set boundaries. If you've ticked any of those boxes that we've just spoken about. So now I want to help you to get clear on why it would be good for you to set boundaries and how to set them. And there's lots of different books, and share them in the comments if you've read different books or followed different people and it's served you and you've learned from it and applied it into your life. I'd love to know what you learned and how it served you. I'm always open for more. I always believe there's more. So please share it with me. I'd love that. So why boundaries are so important, just to build on what I've already said, is that it helps you manage your energy, your time, helps you to feel safe, and it helps you to be at your best. So it helps you to be the best version of you and live the best version of your life. So they actually really support you. And that's where I started at the beginning. It's all about you and you taking, self-responsibility and ownership of yourself and what you want. And I really found that with boundaries. I was amazed at how much more energy I had, how much more time. Incredible. Like, time just expanded because I stopped loading up my plate. I stopped just saying, yes, load up my plate. I had boundaries. I'm not going to load up my plate anymore because it's already full. And if it was too full and something had happened that had kind of tipped me over the edge, like this week when my son broke his elbow, and that was a moment where it stretched me and everything changed in a moment. So I have boundaries that when that happens, I take things off my plate. and I ask for help, and I give myself permission to receive help. And that's what I did. I changed plans. I took things off my plate. I didn't overschedule myself. I started to say no to things, even if I'd already committed to them, because things had changed. And I needed to pivot to be able to protect my energy and be at my best and ensure that I was in this vibration of love, so that I could share love and energy. Otherwise, if I didn't have these boundaries, which was the old me for sure, I would become resentful, I'd become exhausted, overwhelmed, stressed, stretched, all the things that I was feeling before, which led to me feeling really guilty, like I wasn't enough, like I wasn't worthy. My self-esteem was so low, and I don't want to go back to that. I've drawn a line in the sand. So boundaries has helped me to make sure that doesn't happen. And crazily, it does make you feel like time has expanded. It's incredible. And it's so empowering, because it improves your confidence and your self-worth and your self-belief when you start to stand up for yourself, when you're really clear about what you're available for and what you're not, and you speak that truth and you own it, you take full ownership. There's a confidence that you build. There's a belief in yourself that you build. You're backing your own soul, and there's something really powerful about doing that. And you receive from doing that. You receive even more confidence, even more self-worth, even more self-love, and it builds you up. Whereas when I didn't have boundaries, it was really breaking me down to the level of, people that I didn't even want to be at the level of, I was feeling pulled down. Whereas boundaries really do help me to feel like I'm raising up. To the level that I want to go, and I'm always raising the bar, but the boundaries help me to constantly be moving towards it and not get distracted and want to fall back into that pattern of people pleasing and perfectionism. So they're really, really powerful. So how do we set boundaries? So the first step is getting really clear with ourselves. So when I got really clear, what I had to start with is asking myself what I really wanted. What do I really want out of every area of my life? My relationships, my work, my parenting, my family, my children, my clients, like who do I want to work with? I got really clear about what I wanted. And that's your first step. Get really clear about what you want. Not outside of you, only dependent on you. If no one else's opinion mattered, if you could literally have anything you wanted, what would you want? Get really clear about it and write it down for every area of your life. And then you need to start to set some boundaries around that. So you need to get really clear about what behavior you're available for and you're not available for. And we can't control other people's feelings. So it's not about, so I'm only available for so-and-so to behave in this way. We don't have control over anybody else outside of ourselves. I'm sorry. We'd love to do that, but it won't happen. But what does happen is when you get really clear about what behavior you're available in yourself. So I was no longer available for people pleasing or perfectionism in myself, and that was a boundary. Then I was no longer put in those situations where I was having to give when I didn't want to, or, I just didn't put myself in those situations. I was always choosing situations that really reflected what I want, where I was going to grow, where I would receive love, where I would be feeling connection, all the things that I wanted. So making a boundary like that. So firstly, it is about really making boundaries with yourself, telling yourself what you are and are not available for within yourself, what you are and are not committed to in your life, and how you want to be treated, because we teach the world how to treat us. We can't blame people for, like I said in the beginning, expecting things from us when we have set the expectation, we have set the standard. But it's okay if we have set one that is too low and is not serving us, we get to change it. So this is where boundaries are powerful. We get to choose a new standard and set a boundary to support that standard. And that's what you need to do for every area of your life. Once we've done it with ourselves, we then need to often bring it to, we have to take action towards it. So there's no point just writing in our journal. The fastest way to change these beliefs about ourselves is to actually take inspired action and do something about it. So when you set a standard or a boundary within yourself around relationships, you actually need to go to your partner, and like me and my husband do all the time, we declare our new standard to each other and our boundary. So what we are and are not available for. But the key to this is, again, self-responsibility and ownership. So every time we do this, we focus on ourselves. So when we do it in a message to each other, or we do it in a cacao ceremony with each other, we are very clear that it's always about I. So I am no longer going to be available for this behavior in myself, and that is going to result in me no longer doing this. So for me, it was, I am no longer going to be available for there's been so many, but perfectionism, because that's what we've been talking about within myself. So I'm just letting you know that in our relationship, I am not going to keep picking up the pieces, putting everything back together, trying to make it look perfect, because that's what I was doing. And there was something my husband was going to lose in that. So that was really hard. And it was interesting when I started to do this, he said to me, wow, I feel like I have lost our relationship. And I said, so do I. And we honored each other's feelings. We didn't judge each other. We saw them. And, there's a temptation to go back to how it was, but you really can't. Once you've seen it, you can't unseen it. And so we just kept moving forward, kept leaning in. And within a few days, my husband was like, I can really see where I have been leaning on you way too much, where I have not been taking responsibility. And he actually thanked me for putting in that boundary and setting that standard, because he's finding out all these things about himself that I was stopping him from actually seeing. I was literally stopping him from growing and evolving, because I was just thinking that love was me being this perfectionist and doing everything and everything. That's not love. And when I unplugged from that, it was very clear that it was not love. The crack showed, the massive gap showed, and we just put more light. We just shone light on it. We owned it, we claimed it, we took responsibility for it, we set standards, we set boundaries, and then everything started to shift. The energy then followed. And now, we don't have to go around saying to each other, I am available for this, I'm not available for that. It's not needed, because our energy reflects what we have decided. So once we've made the decision, our energy reflects it. And when we move towards what we want with our action, everything is in alignment. So we're only focusing on what we want. So, we are human, and we're obviously not perfect, because I've broken up with that and it doesn't exist. So we do make mistakes, but when we do make mistakes, we own them. We apologize, we say that I'm sorry, and that is not who I am, that's the old me, and we interrupt the pattern and we get back focused on what we want. So when you are setting a boundary with someone, it's really important, like I said, that you make it about you. So I am feeling this, or I want this, I need this, I think this. It's all about coming back to ourselves when we're setting this boundary, and really just setting it really lovingly, making sure your intention is love, to bring more love to the relationship. And for us, it's always to have a truer connection, a deeper connection that's more honest and real and loving. And when you have that, your boundaries will be met with love. And definitely it's going to be messy. It's not perfect, but it can be a loving process that you go through together. And you can apply this to everything, to your work, to your clients, to your children, everything. I will say to my children that I am available to help you with this, but I need you to start doing this for yourself. And if you need help, I am here, but I need you to start doing this for yourself. And I've been amazed. My children will meet me in it. They want to take on more responsibility. And so do lots of people in our life. People want to help us, but we think, oh no, I don't want to be a burden. I used to think that I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to weigh them down. I don't want to make it look like I'm not coping or that I need help. People want to help people. I want to help people. So I know you want to help people. Everybody has this. It's our human nature to want to help each other. So when we set boundaries and we get really clear and loving, not only do we give them permission to do the same so that they can live a life as their best self and their best life in their optimum energy and to feel love and connection, but also it gives them the opportunity to be more loving and helpful in their own life. So it's so many good things come from boundaries. I could honestly go on talk about them for ages, and there's just so many parts to it. So if you have more questions, just ask. I will cover as much as I can, but I don't want to overwhelm you. So just lastly, the reason why we do find boundaries hard is because we think love will be taken away. But I really want you to just lean into it, because in my experience and the experience of everyone I know who has actually lent into this, they receive more love and hugely more love for themselves. This is the key. Boundaries give you more self-love, self-esteem. You back your soul in a way that you can't when you're people-pleasing, perfectionism, trying to be everything and you have no boundaries. So I also just want to mention that boundaries does not mean that you close off from love. That is not boundaries. Boundaries, I'm still very open. Even though I have boundaries, I'm very open. I haven't closed at all. And you can do that. It's about your energy. You can remain open, but focused on what you want and the standard that you're here for. And then your boundaries will be very loving and open. They don't have to be closed. You have to me, my relationship to boundaries is it's not about protecting myself. There's nothing to protect myself from. When I have standards of love, and I'm committed to that, there's nothing to protect myself from. So really look at that. Like I said, I was amazed in my relationship where it showed for me where I was plugging up the holes in my husband of his disorganization, his loneliness, his disconnection to himself, and his lack of energy. So it was really powerful for both of us when I gained more energy and then he realized that he needed to work on his energy and to really go more inside of himself. It was just so beautiful. So much good came out of us setting boundaries. I just want to end that it really made us realize that we are only ever responsible for our own feelings and our own energy. And that's what boundaries makes very crystal clear. I really don't take on other people's feelings now as if they're my own. And if I feel something, I allow myself to feel it, and I'm not worried about what the other person is going to feel about it, because I know that I have a boundary of love and that I'm not projecting. When I was being a perfectionist, I was projecting and blaming and all of those things. But now that I have a boundary of no perfectionism and full responsibility for myself, I own my feelings as my own, so I can bring them in a way that is loving and I'm not actually being a burden. So it's so incredible. It's so powerful. Like I said, there's so much more I could share in this, but I won't. If you have any questions, please reach out, and I really hope this has helped you. And if it has, share with me, what did you learn? And I'd love to know, what is your relationship to boundaries, and where are you going to start including and implementing some boundaries in your life? Don't just write them down. Remember, you need to take action towards them. I'm sending you so much love. Thank you for being here. Mwah.